All right, you're good to go.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be able to make a presentation to the Family Matters Parent Training and Information Center. Great honor. And I don't know how much everybody knows about what we do. I thought I'd give you a little history of our family, and then of course how Angels for Hire has got to where it is today. So when my wife Melissa was pregnant with our first child, I had hopes and dreams that he or she would be scholar, athlete, musician, leader. And when I saw our first child being born, the doctor said he's a boy. That was one of the happiest moments of my life. But when that same doctor 5 minutes later asked me if I knew what Down syndrome was, that was frankly one of the saddest moments of my life. I had no idea what it would be like to raise a child with Down syndrome, but it's been, I thought I don't deserve a son like this, but it's been 33 years since that day, with all the trials and triumphs we've had together in our lives, Trevor and I. I stand by my original statement. I really did not deserve a son like Trevor, but for the completely opposite reason. As a freshman in high school, we found out he was being bullied, called the R word, told he was worthless. But we intervened with the administration. They put a stop to that. But by the end of his senior year, he had turned the whole school around to the point where the faculty drafted him on the homecoming court. He was elected homecoming king in the greatest landslide of school history. He got more votes than the other four candidates combined. And one funny thing about that, when we found out he was elected homecoming king, we thought, hey, he's got to look sharp. So we ran out and rented him a tuxedo, and he's never had one on before or since, actually. And so I was buttoning it up, and he asked me, I kissed the bride. I said, son, you're homecoming king, and you're not getting married tonight, and there's actually no kissing required or part of this ceremony. So just please keep your hands in your pockets, and we'll be fine. And then after graduating from high school, he was told, this is in 2010, excuse me. He was told that the best job he could ever hope for would be folding towels in the basement of a hotel laundromat. And I thought, well, he's kind of outgoing, he's friendly, and he likes sports. Maybe there's a job like that out there somewhere. And they said, no, there's no jobs like that. But nevertheless, we heard last game of this 2011 season that Major League Baseball's LA Angels were looking to hire a greeter out front of their team store. And I thought, well, this is not the corporate counsel. It's not even working the cash register. It's just being a friendly person. And he is. So I thought, well, let's go up there. We'll give it a shot anyway. And so we drove up there, introduced ourselves to the manager, and he goes, well, I don't know. We've never hired somebody with a disability. I don't think so, but call me in a week. So I called him in a week and said, well, I don't think so, and then I couldn't get a hold of him again. And then finally I got a hold of him, and he said, well, it's out of my hands. You have to call the HR manager. So I called him up. Also a nice guy, but he said, we've never done this before. And I said, well, tell you what, just give my son an interview. And if you don't think he can do it, we won't make a fuss, I promise, because this is back 2010. And a lot of the corporations back then, they were afraid to even give an interview to somebody with a disability, because they were thinking, if whatever the job might be, if the candidate, they thought, well, he or she cannot do this job. Actually, I don't think so. They'd be afraid that they'd be called out for being discriminatory and all that. So I assured them that we wouldn't do that if they didn't think Trevor could do the job. So anyway, so we went up there to the interview appointment, and my wife, Melissa, his mom, got him a real cool angel tie and all that. We put his resume together. There wasn't much to it, but so drove up there, ushered into his office, and he said, okay, have a seat, Trevor, Robert. We sat down, and right off the bat, he asked my son if he know anything about the Angels, and he did. He knew most of the current Angels and the Angels from the 2002 World Championship team, and so he said, well, that's pretty good. I didn't know that. And then he goes, what's this homecoming king thing about? And I explained that to him, and And then he said, well, you're a pretty popular guy. And then he said, but you never had a job before. And Trevor said, not yet. And then he said, well, I see you've had training with Trader Joe's and Walgreens. What did you do with those companies? And Trevor said, I face, I stock, I do go backs. And I never forget the guy looks at us and he says, you know, I can teach anybody how to stock and face and do go backs. That's nothing. And he kind of paused for a second, and I thought to myself, well, okay, we'll be on our way, Trevor. Thanks for the tell this guy thank you for his time. But then he said, but there's a few things I know I cannot teach. It's an outgoing personality, a cheerful disposition, and a beautiful smile. And you, Trevor, have all that and more. Our first game is next April against the Kansas City Royals. Can you be there? He goes, yeah, I'd be there. So he hires him on the spot. Next year rolls around, and Trevor's working at Angel Stadium, first game. And there were some Royal fans in town, and they had Royals hats on and jerseys and such. And they tried to come into the place where Trevor was working, and he said, Angel fans only, you can't come in here. His boss says, no, you got to let everybody come in. So he goes, okay, come on in. And so that was cool. And then a few weeks later, the president of the Angels, it was Trevor's birthday. He found out about it. He came down and gave him a $500 autographed baseball. And I don't know about the rest of you, but my first job, the president of my company did not come down and give me a $500 bonus. I mean, this wasn't in the cards for me. And then after that, the chairman of the Angels, he was speaking at a local chamber of commerce, and he said, "Can you guys come down and share your story? Because this is good publicity for our ball club." So we did. We shared what basically what happened and all that. And he said, thank you so much. And if you ever need anything, give me a call. And then a few weeks later, I thought, well, maybe the Anaheim Ducks, the NHL team, need a greeter. And so I reached out to them, and the HR manager said, well, I don't know. Okay, well, all right, come in next week. And then I called the chairman of the Angels up and said, hey, Dennis, it's Robert. Trevor said, yeah, what's up? And I go, do you know anybody that works for the Ducks? And he said, well, I play golf with the president of the Ducks once a month. I go, okay, that's good for starters. So we go to the interview at Honda Center, and this HR manager, very nice lady, she gives us it's a walking interview. We're walking around Honda Center, and she's asking him questions, and he's killing this interview too. Trevor was, I could tell that. So anyway, so she goes, okay, come back to my office. We'll talk further. And, I've actually never worked for a large corporation before, but I've since learned that if you're an HR manager and the president of your company calls you up and says, hey, I understand there's a young man and his father, a special young man, coming in for an interview tomorrow for a greeter at our venue. So I think we're going to want to hire this young guy. I think I've seen him at Angel Stadium, and he's very outgoing and cheerful, and he's the kind of person we want to have working for us. So, and he said, during the interview, if you decide you don't want to interview them, or don't want to hire them rather, before they go, call me, and I'll come down and I'll interview them with you. So, because we go into the lady's office, HR manager, and she got the paperwork already filled out. She says, Trevor, just sign right here. So he was hired. He's already hired there. And then, so that was good. And then a couple of years later, we called the LA Rams up, and now we have traction. We've had some articles in the paper about my son, and so they hired him. And then the USC Trojans, private university out here in Southern California, which was my alma mater. It's kind of anyway. I called their HR manager up, and left a voicemail, and I thought I'll call him back in a month or so, see what's up. And then he called me back 2 hours later. He said, hey, this sounds great, and we'll get Trevor through the process, and we'll have him start next game. And hadn't even met him in person yet. We hadn't met him. So anyway, so he was hired by over the year. He's hired by the Angels in 2012, the Ducks in 2013, and the Rams and the Trojans in 2018. And over the years, he's become known, admired, and often loved by close to 2 million fans in Southern California. So that was good. And then something happened a couple of years into Trevor's 2 years into Trevor's working at Angel Stadium, actually before that, longer than that. Anyway, we heard of a woman came by the store and the Angel Stadium, and she was pregnant with a child who had Down syndrome, and she was unsure what to do. And then she met Trevor and saw what a blessing he was, and she brought her child to life. And so we thought, well, maybe there should be something more to Trevor's working at Angel Stadium and Honda Center and all these places than just him having these 4 amazing jobs. Maybe we could establish pro-life embassies, or so to speak. We don't promote it like that, but we're hoping that it has happened that if a woman in some city, whatever that might be, and she finds herself in a similar situation, somebody could tell her, go see Susie at Yankee Stadium, or go see Tommy at Fenway Park, and then the lives of more young adults, young babies, be saved with Down syndrome. So that's what we did. So we thought, let's form Angels for Hire. Angels for Hire, spelled HIGHER, as in higher purpose, and to replicate what Trevor has done here in Southern California and other stadiums around the country. And so we got our 501c3 IRS designation earlier this year, which is really cool. But we had to come up first with our mission, vision, and values. And so our mission is that we empower young adults with Down syndrome. Now, I'll say that's what our mission is, but we branched out from recently, not just individuals with Down syndrome, but also any young adults with intellectual disabilities, cheerful, energetic, mature, outgoing young adults with intellectual disabilities that might like to work in the stadium. We have some working for us now. They're not actually working for us. We placed them in stadiums on the spectrum, and a couple have cerebral palsy, and I think there's another young man. I'm not sure what he has, but anyway. So I'm going to talk about Down syndrome, but again, we're looking for young adults with intellectual disabilities that would like to work in a stadium, and they're qualified to do so. So we help young adults with Down syndrome and intellectual disabilities reach their full potential through their employment in sports stadiums and university campuses, where they always positively impact sports fans, college students, fellow employees, team executives, professional athletes, and people living throughout the surrounding communities. That's our mission. Our values are such that we believe that young adults with Down syndrome and intellectual disabilities working in public venues as valuable employees can use their jobs as a pulpit, to joyfully proclaim the message that every human being is incredibly precious, infinitely valuable, and eternally significant in God's sight. And then finally, our vision is to change the public perception of individuals with intellectual disabilities living across North America through their employment in jobs where their God-given gifts, abilities, and challenges make them uniquely qualified to spread joy everywhere they go and change the lives of everyone they meet. So that's our mission, values, and vision. But the thing is, we have to make the case that not only is this the right thing to do, but it also has to make financial business sense, because we're speaking to secular sports athletic venues and university campuses. So we can't. It has to make sense to them. Not only that's the right thing to do, but it's got to make sense to them, on their bottom line. So our second step, after we came up with a mission, values, and vision, is to develop a 3-step strategic alliance partnership program. So, and what is a strategic alliance? Is an arrangement between 2 companies to undertake a mutually beneficial project while each retains its independence. So step 1.
Hey, Robert, before you get moving too fast, we can't see your PowerPoint. We're just seeing your email screen.
I don't have a PowerPoint with me.
Okay, perfect. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry about that. No, I don't have,
okay.
I wasn't able, okay, anyway. Step 1 is to make presentations to stadiums and university campuses. And we found that hiring a young adult with Down syndrome promotes diversity equity and inclusion throughout the city. So it's easy for a venue to say that they promote DEI, so to speak, but the greater challenge is to demonstrate their commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion. And I coached Trevor's Special Olympics for 22 years, and I love Special Olympics. I'm sure many of you young adults have participated in that. It's a great organization. But the thing is, one of their big values is to raise awareness of people with intellectual disabilities, what they can do, which is a noble, mission, so to speak, for sure. But Special Olympics tournaments are valuable, but when you at a tournament, the people that come to those, it's 98% of them are adults, or their parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, cousins, uncles, nephews, teachers. So they're kind of preaching to the choir at a Special Olympics tournament as far as raising awareness. However, at a sports venue, you flip that percentage, and I would guess 98% of the people that attend a sports event, they're there to see home runs or three-point shots or touchdowns. They have never had any significant interaction with somebody with an intellectual disability. Just never have. So we're on the front lines. Our greeters on the front lines of raising awareness for people with disabilities. Okay, so we make a presentation to the stadiums. First off, again, promotes diversity, equity, inclusion throughout the city, throughout the stadium and the city. And then it elevates the family-friendly brand of the stadium. Number two, everyone knows that a team is there to win games and make money, but there's nothing says there's more to a team than just winning games and making money than having somebody with a recognizable disability welcoming people into their venue. Okay, number three, the return on investment is astronomical. Public relations return on investment. This is true with all our greeters that have been working, but for my son, Trevor, he gets paid, I think, well, I'll just say $15 an hour. I think it's more now, but that just for ease of my math is not the greatest. He works 5-hour shifts, so that's 5 times $15. I'm pretty sure it's more in Chicago, but that's $75 a day. So what is $75 for a special professional sports team? Fairly negligible, for sure. However, in my son's case, we've had 3 front page articles in the local Orange County, California newspaper talking about Trevor's impact at the stadiums where he works. And one Thanksgiving Day front page edition of the LA Times speaking similarly. We've done live radio broadcasts, interviews for several 100,000 people up and down the coast of California. We had tape radio shows. Have gone around the world. Several million people listen to us talking about what Trevor's done and his teams too. So it's great publicity for them. I know it's going around the world because I received a phone call not too long ago from a guy, and he's kind of a funny accent. I didn't recognize it at first, and he said, "You got to come to our stadium. We need greeters there." And I go, "Okay, where?" He goes, "What team are you?" He goes, "The Hurricanes." And I said, "Oh, okay, Miami." He said, "No, Hobart." I said, "Hobart? What?" He goes, "The cricket team." I go, "Cricket? Okay, where are you?" And he said, "We're in Tasmania. It's an island off Australia." I know where that is, but we'll try to get to you, my friend. But that's 12,000 miles away or something like that. I'm not right away. We're going to go there, but we'll keep you in mind if we should go to Australia. And then we've been interviews on radio in Chicago. Our greeters, the Cubs, they were on the Marquee Sports Network. This was a couple of years ago now, but we had a real nice 5-10 minute interview with not just me. I'm not the best. Not me. I'm at the end about 5 seconds, but you talk to our greeters who are working at Wrigley Field, and then also the employee newsletter. They were in there as well. And Chicago, Arizona, the Arizona Republic. We've been on Associated Press across the country. And so that's pretty good publicity. So what would that cost the team, that kind of publicity? To be on the front page of newspapers is probably, I've heard estimates from $50,000 to $1 million. And so for $75 is a pretty good return on investment. And then also in Chicago demonstrate the inclusivity to individuals with disabilities. In part of my presentation to the Cubs and the Bears was that I asked them, all the teams, I always ask, if you have any special disability promotion days, and some of them do, some of them don't. But I said, you know, I always look at the U.S. Census Bureau and say, for Cook County, as an example, the population is 5,190,000 people. And so they also have a percentage of how many of those have disabilities. And in Cook County, it's 6.8% disabilities. So 6.8% of 5,190,000 is roughly 352,920 people with disabilities in Cook County. And then you add at least one caregiver, parent, guardian to that group. So you double that. So 13.6% of the population in Chicago, Cook County, is impacted significantly by people with disabilities. So that's a total of 705,000 people, a little more than that actually, are impacted that way. So that's a pretty large group of unreached fans, officially unreached fans. And so I tell them, the executives with these teams, that, you know, I don't go to all of Trevor's games, but when I do, I stand off to the side and take photographs of people interacting with him. And parents bring their, you know, children in wheelchairs, visually impaired, and, you know, autism, obvious, you know, recognizable disabilities to meet Trevor. And not just to become a greeter someday, but just to be encouraged that there's other jobs out there, that you don't have to settle for what, you know, some bureaucrat or bureaucracy tells you this is your job and like it. There's other things out there. Sports, working at a sports place, venue is tremendously exciting. So I tell the executives with these teams and universities that if you hire somebody with Down syndrome or with an intellectual disability, every day at your stadium is going to be Disability Day, and you don't even have to promote it. You don't have to spend any money at all. Just the fact that our greeters are at your stadium, people will come there to see them, and they'll know that there's more to this stadium. Their walk matches their talk, I should say. So that's our 4-part presentation to the stadiums. And once the stadiums are on board, of course, we have to recruit young adults with disabilities, intellectual disabilities from the local population that are qualified to work at a stadium. And so I'm just talking about Down Syndrome Association. I know there's associations, you know, for, you name it. Well, you know, your organization for one would be one I could present to specifically if when there's an opening at a team. But what I'll do, the Down Syndrome Association, I contact them and say, hey, you know, the Cubs, the Bears, the White Sox, whoever is looking to hire greeters, and so can I make a presentation? And it's usually a Zoom meeting to start, but I send them specific qualifications, requirements, and I can send that to you guys as well later. What's required to be a greeter at a sports stadium. And then I make a presentation via Zoom, and then also I like to make in-person presentation at a pizza parlor or a church or something like that. So I discuss the reality. It's not a job for everybody, you know, and, you know, if I owned the stadium, I'd hire everybody with a disability that came along, but they won't do that. They'll just hire, like they usually ask for 4 or 5, maybe 6. Sometimes they'll hire more, sometimes 2, but it's got to be somebody that's, it's not, let's see, how do I put it? It's not for everybody. It's not regular school, which is real, you know, structured and all that, not a special school, anything like that. It's certainly not church, Sunday school. You know, it's loud environment, and if it's an outside event, there's fireworks, there's people yelling, screaming, and, you know, and drinking and cussing and all that kind of stuff, you know. So it's not for the faint of heart, really. I mean, I don't want to scare anybody off. I'm sure you've all been to stadiums before, but again, it's not. So we're looking for somebody that is not frightened by loud noises and people that are kind of not crazy out of control, but just kind of raucous situation. You know what it's like. We're also not looking for they have to be mature, and respectful as far as their supervisors and, the rules of the stadium, and just being a good employee. That's what they need to be. And then we also, at the other end of the spectrum, we like the young adults to be kind and nice, but it's also not a job for, people that just want to play on their phone or the laptop, or sit down and that kind of, it's not that job for sure. It's not working behind your computer. You're involved. You've got to be outgoing. You got to like meeting people and that kind of thing. So that's part of what the job is. It's not for everyone, again, and the families as well. It's not for every family, because what we do, at a stadium, the family, there has to be a job coach. I'm sure you're all familiar with a job coach. It's, somebody that's kind of a chaperone at the stadium just to make sure that everything goes well, and their charge or young adult is, does what they're supposed to do, and they can interact with the teams and all that. And so sometimes they'll have an outside job coach. Trevor has had both. He's had, somebody from the Goodwill that's paid by the state regional center. And so that'll work sometimes. And then also I myself and his mom, Melissa, will be his job coach. We'll just drive him up there and walk into the stadium. This is what we do with the Rams and the Trojans, because it's an hour away from where we live. So we can't take him up there, drop him off to the job coach and come back. It'd be like 4 hours back and forth. So we can't do that. So the parents have to be committed. The family, the guardian has to be committed to this. It's not a situation where the Cubs or the Bears are going to send a bus by to pick up your son or daughter and take him to the stadium and then bring him back and drop him off. No, you've got to get him to the stadium, and somebody's got to be there with him or he or her throughout the game, just to make sure it's all good and all that. So the parents have to be involved too. Again, I've had families that I've explained this to, and they say, well, okay, and then I don't hear back from them. So again, it's not for every young adult with a disability. It's not for every family. It takes some commitment on the part of everybody involved. So, okay, so I talked to the executives about this as well. I know more about what makes a successful relationship between a young adult with a disability and its professional sports team or university campus, probably more than just about anybody, I would guess, in the United States, just based on my experience, alone, nothing, any particular talent I have, for sure. I was 35 years in the business sales, 33 years in involvement in the special needs community with my son, of course, and then 22 years coaching his Special Olympics teams, and interacting with all kinds of, you name it, all kinds of disabilities. His flag football team, his floor hockey, basketball, soccer, and then had 12 years successful interactions with working for Trevor at his jobs, from chairman, presidents, down to parking lot attendants and janitors and everybody in between, advocating for Trevor, professional athletes, advocating for Trevor at his stadium jobs, and then also 5 years developing mutually beneficial strategic alliance partnerships with teams, with like I say, 24 venues. It's 21 professional teams, and then there's 3 university campuses, USC, Notre Dame, and Ohio State, and more coming on board, by the way. So, and then we've made partnerships with 13 Down syndrome associations across the country. So again, see what else I want to say. Oh yeah, we've developed these strategic alliances with teams. See, what we want to do, we want to make this a long-term, mutually beneficial relationship. So we're not, I might sound like I'm not a used car salesman, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm here for the long haul. We want to make sure this works for the foreseeable future. And so what we do is we help facilitate the interview, the third step of our development process. We help facilitate the interview. We'll sit in on it if they want us to. As an example, a few years ago, the Reds were going to interview 4 candidates, Cincinnati Reds, and so very nice HR manager. She said, "Well, I've never spoken to somebody with Down syndrome before." Well, okay, we'll be there. We'll help translate, so to speak, if it's not needed, but we help with that, and so we'll be there for that. And then here to explain quirks and all that about, during the interview or off camera, so to speak, as well. We'll talk to them what this is all about and what this is going to mean and how this should go. But the thing is, one thing I had to mention is that, now we have, 24 venues and we have over 90 greeters working at companies, places around the country. That's too many for me to manage, on my own. I mean, I'd be a full-time job just figuring out, solving nothing bad has ever happened. But just as an example, this happened with the fire, as it turns out. The HR manager called me up and she said, the Smith family quit on us. I go, why? She goes, I don't know. So I called the Smith family up. She goes, well, he hasn't got paid yet. This is a couple months into the season. So I called the HR manager back and said, he hasn't got paid yet. And then she looked into it and she said, well, he hasn't clocked in. So, a thing like that, we solved it. It was easy enough. But what we're doing, once we get going in a month or two, we're going to ask for a parent volunteer that would be like our boots on the ground in every stadium, every venue. So somebody that if something like I just mentioned, issue like that comes up, they can solve it there. And I'm here to help. You guys can call me anytime they want, but that kind of thing could have been solved in about 5 minutes. And I didn't have to get involved, and it took, several days before we got to the bottom of it. So we have a parent volunteer in every venue that we have. Some of them, like in Chicago, we have a guy, his son works for the Cubs, the Bears, and at United Center. So he's like a parent volunteer for all for the 4 teams, the 3 venues. So that's worked out really well. And then say end of year 2025, we want to make these turn into parent volunteers, turn into paid positions, like a regional director type of a situation. I can explain more about that later. It's on the drawing board, but that's coming up. And then by end of year 2027, we're going to establish franchises in every city that's got at least 2 or more Angels for Hire venues. So that's down the road. It's not really pertinent to this particular presentation, but I thought I'd throw that in. So we lost 2 years to COVID. We couldn't do any traveling and things came to a standstill, but now I've already mentioned how many greeters we have. And we ran the table in Chicago. It's been my kind of town, Chicago is. It's just, we've had great success in Chicago. We've got greeters, again, with the Cubs, the White Sox, the Bears, Fire, the Blackhawks, and the Bulls. And next year, I believe we've had interactions with them, initial with the Sky, the Red Stars, and then Northwestern University as well. So I think it's coming on. I can't guarantee, but I think so. So, and then future opportunities, just for point of reference, there's 200 major league teams, and we've already reached out to 179 of them. I know they're not all going to hire greeters, but we're going to try to reach out to all of them within a couple of years, at least make a presentation to all these teams. And then major universities, there's 129, Division I, gold, I forget the name, large universities. There's 126 we haven't interacted with yet. And then, and also another thing too, new thing came up, performing arts centers. And it's a different clientele. I mean, there's some people, they don't, they go to baseball games and to the opera or a concert, but we thought this would be a couple of them reached out to us. So we'll see how that works out. But it's a different atmosphere. And we're thinking that this would be a good place for, say there is a more mellow, quieter young adult with a disability, whatever that might be, then he or she could, it's not going to get loud. It's not going to be crazy people at a performing arts center, I don't think. I mean, they're not going to be yelling and setting off fireworks. I know that. So that might be a better place for somebody that's, doesn't want to go. Or the parents don't want them to go to a football stadium where there's, rowdy people and all that. So it might be a better opportunity. So that's something coming up. So anyway, that is all I have, but I'm open for questions. If you want, I'm not sure if I can figure out how these questions are going to come in. If you have questions, if anybody has questions, but, or I can certainly take them. Somebody can relay them to me, or somebody could come on the screen and whatever you want to do. Any questions you have, I'll be happy to answer them. And again, I can send you information.
So everybody should have the ability to unmute themselves. Make sure if you are unmuting yourself that your background noise is quiet, so you can ask a question that way. I did want to say I've had the privilege of meeting Miss Erin Compton. She works at Wrigley Stadium, and she's presented for us. And I recently attended a concert there and was trying my best to find the gate she was working at, so I could go through her line and meet her in person. But we were, we had such a great greeter, and I didn't want to like leave the line that we were in. So there were many greeters there, and it was a great thing to see.
Yeah, Chicago, the Cubs have been great. I mean, they opened the door for us in Chicago. That's what we like to do. Like one team, like the Cubs, and also, then they know people that work for the other teams, and before you know it, a lot of them are coming on. Their fear of missing out. I mean, yeah, the Cubs are doing this. What's wrong with you? Don't you believe in diversity, equity, inclusion? So I don't like to leave a guilt trip on them, but I'll do it if that's what it takes. But then the same thing happened in the Bay Area. The Golden State Warriors came on board, and then before you know it, the Giants, the San Francisco Giants, and the Athletics, and the 49ers, and I think the Sharks are coming on board too. I'm not sure. But anyway, and then Nashville, we got greeters with the Titans, and I think the Predators are coming on board. So once one team gets on board, and it's a successful thing, then the others come on. So yeah, I'm glad you had a good experience with Cubs.
I had noticed the band were very much interested in the greeters that were there, and they got to meet some people from the band, and so I was completely jealous on that matter. But we were, it was such a great welcoming experience instead of someone that just isn't real happy with their job that day. But it was wonderful.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, you've all seen that when you go to a place, restaurant or market, and the young adult, whatever, with no disability, they're just sitting looking at their cell phone. And, yeah, what do you want? What can I? But our greeters just love. They like meeting people, and so that's part of that's what they're there to do, and they do a great job of it. So.
And I don't know how the school codes are in California, but do you feel like that your son's transition plan that he had in high school was supportive in helping him to identify things he may be interested in for employment?
Do not just out here. I mean, like I think I said, they told him, oh yeah, just fold towels. And this is 10 years. I get this. Wait a minute, it's like 12 years ago. So more avenues have opened up, of course. But at the time, he didn't have much hope for something exciting like he's doing. So it took a lot of work on my part to get this going and to get him hired by the Angels. Like I think I mentioned, it was not an easy path by any means. So we haven't been in the transition program for 12 years, I guess. So I don't know, maybe it's improved, but at the time it wasn't great. It wasn't great. So they're kind of on your own. Well, thanks a lot. You got your degree, and have fun, enjoy your life, and that's it. So once you're out of the system, so to speak, then it was all up to us. And maybe it's better now, but but like I say, we don't. We didn't have we had to do all this on our own. And now what we're trying to do is do something that make it a little easier for the people coming behind us. And I think we've been successful at that. There's still some pushback from some of the teams. Some of them, that even out here in California, I don't even say they're not going to be, they don't want part of this, but that's the way it is. So yeah, so it's it's hard work, but it's a tremendous joy for the parents, and they love it, and everybody's happy. It's a win for the greeters for sure, their parents, their fellow employees. In fact, Trevor. Well, this last time he was working for the Angels. His manager said Trevor is the third most popular employee we have here at Angel Stadium. We go, oh, really? Okay. Well, what's who's number 1 and 2? And he goes, well, it's Mike Trout and then Shohei Ohtani, but he's a close third. I go, well, okay, what do they make? What's their salary? Maybe he could get. What's number 4? What does he make? And so anyway, yeah. So they get be really popular. And the greeters and the Cubs and all the stadiums, and people come looking for them. They go, where are they? And where's Sam, whoever it is, they want to see them. And so it's a great situation.
That was my first question to my greeter. Well, I got through the greeter line and then went through, of course, the metal detector, and that was my first question. Do you know where I can find Erin? And she's like, that way. So everybody knew her, and it was great.
Yeah, it's a great thing. We appreciate that.
So any advice you can give for parents and for students who may be watching to really look outside the box for employment in their area? Because not we live, we serve a very rural community. So,
Okay.
um, so anything,
Yeah,
any
no,
advice?
well, the advice I would give is just you have to be persistent, and just what we did, Um, it takes a phone call, in-person meeting, and I just basically what we're doing now. I mean, I know there's places locally, and I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with Chicago suburbs really. Not even that familiar with Chicago. So kind of what we're focused on is stadiums and universities. So it's kind of a more urban situation typically. Although Notre Dame, of course, is in a South Bend. It's kind of rural, I guess, but nevertheless, it's a university. So, but yeah, I mean, one of the teams. Uh, shall remain nameless. Who went there? They go, well, we can have them wash dishes. I go, no, that's not what this is not in Chicago. This is out here in California. And I said, well, that's not what we wanted to do. So I think the key is just to find, uh, uh, talk to the manager, talk to the HR person, whoever you can get in front of, and explain what you're looking for son or daughter to work at a stadium or that kind of thing. So, or a venue, a public place, not like the dark ages, like the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. That was 19 for all you that weren't around then. I'm not
Well,
that old, but old enough.
after
But
after hearing Erin speak, my daughter actually went to her high school principal and got on the list to be a
oh,
volunteer at the basketball and football games to take
oh,
tickets. So,
great,
I mean,
great,
that's even a suggestion to reach out to your locals, really think about and do those transition assessments for your student. But Robert, you're a great example of a parent advocate for your adult dependent. I keep calling mine my adult child, and he's
sure.
21, but my adult
Mhm.
dependent. And you've been such a great inspiration to come on and talk to us today, and we can't thank you enough.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, if anybody wants to contact me, can you look us up on the website, Angels for Hire, and it's spelled HIGHER.org, angelsforhire.org. You can email me if you want, H Robert H at angelsfh.org. I can do that too. So either one works.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today, and we will see you soon. Have a great Thanksgiving if you're celebrating, and make sure you're definitely looking outside the box for your student.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Thank you.
You too.